I went to dinner at a friend's apartment. But it was not dinner. It was an intervention for me. My least favorite kind of intervention. I walked in, there were 6 of my friends in New York in person, and 6 of my friends over Zoom from LA. And you may be thinking, hey, if that was me, I would have been like, if you're so worried about me, how come you didn't fly in? Don't worry, I said that several times. I rang that bell as often as possible. I went away to a rehab, which was a very good experience. I'm very grateful that I went. I was there for 2 months, from December till February 2021. I was there January 6th during the insurrection. Wouldn't have happened on my watch, because I would have seen to it. Was there ever an insurrection before I went to rehab? No. Has there been one since I got out? Absolutely not. They wouldn't dare. They know Baby J is back on the streets.
Baby J is back on the streets.
There's a good episode.
Yep, John Mulaney and his monologue for Saturday Night Live, which we watched when we got home from Tommy Cash last night. Got home, pizza in the oven, turned SNL on.
There you go.
That's right. Yeah, it was okay, right? When Mulaney's on, it's funny.
He's usually very good when he's on.
It was nice to see LCD Sound System back on doing their thing. That's another...
Yeah, they haven't been performing together for a long time.
Well, he retired. He said, I'm retiring like 18 months ago. I guess that was probably pre-COVID he retired, but they're back and doing stuff. Mulaney told the story about contacting his drug dealer and then finding out that his drug dealer might not have been a drug dealer while he was in rehab.
One thing I did in rehab, you sit down with a counselor and you delete and block all of your drug dealers' phone numbers. In some cases, you reach out to a dealer to say, hey, never get in touch with me again. I'm sober now. It's called breaking up with your drug dealer. I texted my main dealer, Arvin, first, and I said, hey, I'm deleting and blocking you. I'm sober now. I'm never going to buy drugs again. And then I'm really polite, so I didn't know how to end the text. So I was like, but thank you for all of the nights that became days and your inspired professionalism. So I send the text. Before I can delete and block him, he texts me back. He goes, hey, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you got sober. You know, I only bought drugs to sell to you because I was worried about you and I didn't want you to get worse stuff off the street. I know, and I'm breaking up with this guy, so I can't block him now. I text him back, you know? I go, hey, oh my God, you sweet man. I said, you only bought drugs to sell to me? He says, yeah. I said, this is a weird time to ask, but are you a drug dealer? He said, no, I'm a painter. We talked about this. So I text him. How did it come to be that you sell me drugs? And he wrote back, I don't know. You just kept asking. I like that story because there are many tales of drug dealers who have turned innocent people into drug addicts. I might be the first drug addict to turn an innocent man into a drug dealer.
It had a nice end to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It leaves on a happy note.
Silly story. What a silly story about, life-ruining drugs.
He's so cute, though.
John Mulaney? Mm-hmm. Really?
Mary's not a fan. I'm sensing you're not a fan of John Mulaney.
I am a fan of John Mulaney. I am. I think he got a lot of hype around him. I don't think... I think he's funny, but I don't think he's as big or as good as people make him out to be. Like, I have several friends who are like, he is the greatest comedian of all time. He's an amazing... He's the best joke writer I've ever heard.
He's certainly having his moment.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
What was his first one?
New in Town.
New in Town.
Yeah. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Comeback Kid wasn't as...
Kid Gorgeous or something like that, I think.
I thought it was called Comeback Kid.
There was the Comeback Kid, and then there was...
Either way, his second one I wasn't as amazed with, which is fine. And then that's when I felt like he really started to blow up, was after that. And then people were just like fawning all over him. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is... He's fine.
I think he's a funny writer. I think that
I agree.
Yeah.
To me, I think he's very funny. I think he's a good performer. I've seen him live. I think he's great. But I can't not hear Zachariah. He's just
the timbre of his voice, and
Yeah.
delivery.
he's just Zachariah if he was wore clothes from the Gap.
Right.
Like that's
right.
I guess my thing with him is that
Zachariah Durr, who is of
Yeah.
course Big Bad B Movie Show
Yeah.
and an alum of the Alan Cox Show comedy tour.
right.
I have he sounds so rehearsed. Even if that's what his normal everyday conversational voice is, it sounds like he's performing. Does that make sense? Like he's
Well, I don't want to pull the curtain back. He is performing.
I know, but I prefer comics
you
who
know
are,
how you know all of your material ahead of time
Yes.
before you get on stage?
I guess I prefer it to sound a little more conversational. And he sounds very rehearsed and very written and very everything is exactly to the T.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's not my
Cup of
favorite,
tea.
It's not my favorite type
Favorite
of comedy.
style,
Yeah.
right. So was the Louis C.K. in Kiev, was that a real thing over the weekend?
He had canceled the show, but they had just ticket sellers had discounted it before it got canceled. So there was somebody that screenshotted that.
Oh, okay.
And then just it went all over the place.
Louis C.K.
But
was
the show
set to
had
do
been canceled, I believe.
Okay, because the screen grab was that Louis C.K. was going to be doing shows in Kiev over the weekend, and that he hadn't canceled them yet. And then somebody on his behalf was like, "Yeah, these are canceled," but I couldn't even tell if it was a real thing to begin with, like if somebody had just made it up, saying like Louis C.K. or whatever. But I was like, wow, this guy was going over to do gigs in Ukraine, of all places. You know what I mean?
He's doing a world tour, but I mean that's
was he?
Yeah, I think that was part of a tour.
Dude,
A world tour.
Yeah, he's still very popular. He was nominated for a Grammy.
No, I understand. I wasn't aware that are there a lot of comics that tour the world?
Yeah.
A lot?
'Cause
not a lot, but
you
there
don't
are certain ones that can.
I guess he struck
do
me.
it.
I guess he struck me as an odd one to tour the world.
Why?
I don't know. There's something about Louis C.K. that seems distinctly American to me and might not necessarily translate overseas.
Maybe it's a lot of expats.
Yeah, maybe.
He's drawing all of the Americans in Germany or wherever he goes, you know? I'm not to say that he can't cross that boundary, but
Yeah, no, I was just surprised. Once it seemed like it was a real thing. And then there'd been some clarity to it, but I was like, wow, that's wild.
there's a TikTok thread of Ukrainians showing civilians how to drive tanks that were.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dude, that's wild because I don't know how to drive a tank, but I would be interested in riding in one without going to war.
Yeah, because they're trying to get everybody, whether they're a teacher or some, irrespective of what people do for a living, they're trying to get everybody like battle ready over there.
But I don't even think
They're
it was.
teaching kids how to make Molotov cocktails, and who knows what the drinking age
Do
is.
your
over
part.
I don't even know if it was that. I think these were tanks that were seized.
Yeah,
and,
they're like abandoned by
And they're-
Russian soldiers, and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, if you see one of these,
You can
here's
drive
how
it."
you work it."
Yeah,
Right.
they're in there hitting buttons and flicking switches and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh! But what if you just accidentally fired a missile? I would feel so bad.
just don't hit that button.
Yeah, I
How
think
do you know which button is which?
Well, that's
Big
why they're
red
showing
one.
you. You got to
Yeah.
pay
Is there a
attention.
missile button?
you got to watch the TikTok videos.
Yeah, you're going through it all, and you're like, "Okay, I got to start this over."
Oh, hold on. Damn it.
I feel like
The
they're
light
so-
just turned green.
Yeah.
How fast do they go?
Like and subscribe. Huh?
Tanks are not fast. But
Some
that's-
are.
But that's not the point of a tank. A point of a tank is to be like
To do damage. and-
bulletproof
yeah.
and knock things over. It doesn't have to be fast.
Well, I think Russians are finding out is they're not very gas efficient.
Gas efficient, or their navigation must suck. Because I don't understand. They had the same equipment we do. Like, why would you not? Like, you can't find directions on where you're going. Why are you asking civilians how to get somewhere?
Because they took all the signs down.
So you don't have a phone? You don't have navigation? It's not like they're living in the Stone Age.
No, but I also don't think you can just like GPS your tank.
Why can't you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
You might not get a great signal in there. You
Yeah.
gotta hold your.
It's bulletproof.
You're holding your phone out.
Somebody blows your
so
hand
you get
off
A
as you-
signal.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians are just like trolling hardcore. Like they.
And does their phone even work going from Russia into Ukraine? Like,
Different carrier.
Yeah, different carriers, yeah.
No,
I have Verizon.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
I saw a video of this Ukrainian woman talking to like a Russian soldier. She's like, "Go ahead, put these seeds in your pocket, because when we kill you, we want flowers to grow."
Yeah, she was badass. That old lady. Put these seeds in your pocket, because when you die, we want the soil to grow. Yeah,
We want sunflowers.
They're so mouthy. They didn't think they were going to be so mouthy.
mouthy.
I like the video of the guy that's just carrying a mine across the street. He's carrying a landmine across the street, but he's holding it like he's moving a turtle off the road.
God.
And
So he's like holding it far out in front of him, like
it's not going to do anything.
If it goes off, I'll just lose my hands.
At least it's not by my chest.
How do you know?
And he's got a dart in between his teeth. He's smoking the whole way over, and
dude, such badass. Like,
There is something to be said that this, I know people have made the World War III reference, yada, 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 but I mean, it's an active war zone, right? But is this the first time in history that something like this is so easily documented? With TikTok and social media and
sure.
YouTube?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
there hasn't been a war
there hasn't been a land war in Europe in 80 years.
that people have been able to just film on their phone.
In
And
most
that's
people's
insane.
this hasn't happened in most people's lifetimes.
That's crazy. I feel like it's just going to reveal so many more sides of it.
well, it was just so weird because there was an American that was in Ukraine. Why still? I have no idea. But hearing those sirens go off was just so eerie. Like, he was videotaping the whole thing, and he had it on his phone, and he was like, "Uh-oh, the war has started. They reached, is it Kyiv or
Kyiv,
Kiev?"
yeah. There are a lot of like foreign correspondents in every country, really. And if they're there long enough, they might get married and have kids, and then you're an American, but you have family in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because that's where you were stationed, or that's where you live. Or on the subject of Louis C.K., it turns out that Jerry Lewis was the Louis C.K. of his day. Now that Jerry Lewis is dead, all these women are coming out of the woodwork.
Cancel him.
Well, I don't know that this should really shock anybody, because Jerry Lewis, depending on who you would talk to, the guy was either revered by comedians or he was kind of reviled, because Jerry Lewis was very much in that camp of women aren't funny. So if you just blanketly think women aren't funny, it's not that much more of a leap to whip it out in front of them and start doing stuff, which a lot of these women are now alleging. A woman who said she was 13 when she met Jerry Lewis, and he offered her one of his movies or whatever, and then he would come into her.
Hello, nice child.
Lady, almost.
Not quite a lady.
Not quite a lady with the hurting and fling. Yeah. She said, I go into this dressing room, and he presses a button, and the door locks.
Oh, he had to lower.
Before
lower, even.
He lowered her.
The door locking.
The door locking. Think about that.
That's such a creep thing to have.
Yeah, it is.
Someone had to install that.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he also installed recording equipment in there, too.
Can I play with it?
No, you can't play with it. You won't enjoy it on as many levels as I do.
Right. That was live audio recorded in Jerry Lewis's dressing room some decades ago. And then the woman said, he said, I don't know if she was 13 and considered like part of his family or something, or got to know him really well. And then I don't know if she was 13 the whole time through, but she said, you could be very attractive, but you wear pants all the time. I've never seen you in a skirt. You have nice legs and good boobs. And then he started talking to me about sex.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, I don't know. I knew Jerry Lewis, I think, was too... I never got into it just because I think that was so far before me that, I don't know. I liked King of Comedy. I love that movie, King of Comedy.
Never saw it.
Yeah, but it's not so much Jerry Lewis as I think it's more De Niro. But Jerry Lewis plays basically like a Johnny Carson type, and he gets kidnapped, held hostage. But this actress, her name is Hope Holiday, and she said that she would be locked in Jerry Lewis's dressing room, and he would begin playing with himself in front of her. And she's not the only... Poundcake loves these stories. What?
Nothing. That's just... Who does that?
Jerry Lewis.
He said...
Louis C.K.
He said, now I'm going to touch myself vigorously.
Vigorously. I'm going to touch myself vigorously.
My jaw hurts.
She told Jerry Lewis that her boyfriend was waiting outside, but she said that didn't stop him. He just started to talk dirty, and as he's talking, his pants open, the ugly thing came out, and he just started to work himself. And so that story brought other people out of the woodwork talking about their unfortunate Jerry Lewis experiences.
Do you think it's the what is it? Is it the power where they're like trapping somebody? Is it
I can only assume that that's what it is.
Right?
I mean,
because why are guys like this so adverse to consent?
Well, I think maybe they think, hey, I'm not touching her.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't know where your brain is when you're all in a froth like that. I have no idea. But I'm
saying is maybe the lack of consent part of it. Where they're like, you can't go anywhere. You have to watch this.
Oh, I'm sure that's part of it. Yeah.
I just imagine a girl saying like, oh, no, if you just asked me, that'd be okay. Nah. Consent's no fun.
Like if they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And he's like, what the hell?
That turns me off.
I think there's an ego thing to it as well, where a guy like that, he's thinking, well, why wouldn't she want to witness this? Because I'm Jerry Lewis.
Oh, I'm doing you a favor kind of a thing?
Yeah,
I'm doing you a favor.
But you're welcome.
But again, that's like where the ego is.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's anything that's good, but it's just, that's something that I, like, because otherwise it doesn't, I don't know, none of it makes sense, really.
Right.
Yeah, another actress who is now 87 years old said that Jerry Lewis grabbed her and fondled her and blah, blah, blah. So, but Jerry Lewis has been, dead for a few years now. And so I don't know what precipitated this. If it's a documentary that someone's shooting on Jerry Lewis, I don't know what precipitated all of these people coming out.
Changes the whole meaning of the Nutty Professor.
It's an ing at the end now.
Nutty Professoring doesn't make any sense, Mary.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah. So, Jerry Lewis. I don't know. Whatever. But there are people who revere Jerry Lewis. There are comedians who are, of a particular generation who love Jerry Lewis. And it's just another situation where they're going to have to separate the guy from the stuff that he did that they liked.
Well, that generation is also...
They're pretty good at that.
Almost dead. So we'll have to I don't think there's anybody my age that we've never sat around and been like, man, Jerry Lewis.
No, the lady who came out was at 87.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan, let Poundcake know there's a place near Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where if you pay $99, you can drive a tank.
Wow.
There you go. And listen, where my wife grew up, near Flint, Michigan, there was a guy, I guess, who her family was from Bay City, Michigan, which is a small town, but there was a guy who was like a local rich dude or something, and this guy would just acquire military equipment. This guy would buy a helicopter, and the guy had a tank. And when they would do town parades and stuff, Jerry would be in his tank rolling through town. I'm like, did they have to replace the roads
they
every
definitely
year?
have to,
or
for
what?
sure.
Yeah.
Certain cities don't even want to lay down salt because it would ruin the road. You mean to tell me a tank is not going to ruin the road?
Right.
There was, during the Republican National Convention, I worked on that show that Triumph the Insult Comic Dog did, and he came in... the first shot of the thing is him in a tank. And there's a guy around here that has a tank that he rented out.
Yeah.
Someone told me they didn't want to stay on hold, but they said the Russian soldiers did have their cell phones, but they were instructed to turn them off because Ukrainians can track.
Oh, track them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have any GPS or anything like that.
Well, there you go. Learning new things all the time.
And then you see the videos, too, where the tractors are just... after they've run out of gas or whatever, the tractors are just towing it away. It's like, all right, you lost your tank.
Can you melt that down and make it something or no? You can't melt down a tank, right?
No, that's the whole point.
Okay.
If you could melt it, then why would you take it into war?
I don't know.
Right? They're supposed to be super resistant to everything.
They're impervious to a lot of things. I mean, you can obviously blow them up, but I mean,
but you can't just take a match to it.
heavily defended vehicles,
Right.
yes. Okay, let me break. You want to get a text for anything, 35192. Whatever you're doing, you can listen to the show on the iHeart